everyone, so today's video is going to be my first time, not in that way, this is a tag video where you talk about, why is my voice going? This is a video where you talk about your first time doing certain things. So there are a lot of YouTubers that have been doing this video lately, and I thought that I would do it because it sounds like a fun tag. So anyways, I have the questions on my iPad, so I'm going to be reading them off there. So let's just get started. My first pet, I think, I used to have a lot of pets when I was younger growing up, so I can't really remember like that much like specific details about my childhood. I can just remember certain things, but my first pet I think was 2 mice. I think it was 2 mice, or it could have been a bird, or it could have been a cat. But I'm just going to go with mice because that's as young as I can remember. Their names were Ben and Babe. Ben was like a brown white mouse, and then Babe was a just pure white mouse. And I remember naming Babe obviously after the pig, and I don't know who Ben was. And we used to keep them in the garage, so all the time there would be like snakes coming in to the garage, and it was just really kind of unsafe. But we didn't actually end up getting rid of them. They actually ended up running away. I think Babe got a tumour or some sort of thing wrong with her and she died, which was the white one, and then the brown one got out of its cage and ran away and ran underneath the fridge, and we never found it again, so it must have like run underneath the fridge and then ran out of the house or something like that, but it ran away. So there goes that. My first kiss, once again, can't really remember my first one. I can sort of remember, like, I was going to say kissing boys when I was younger, but that sounds really bad. I can kind of remember, you know, like who I kissed, but I can't remember whether it was my first or not technically. But anyways, I think my first kiss, which wasn't obviously intense, but just a little, you know, kiss like you do as a child, was with a boy called Seymour. And I remember just being infatuated with him when I was in probably year 1 or year 2, maybe even younger. And I remember him coming over to my house, and I remember being on the slide that I had in my house in the backyard with him because he came over for a play date and my mum was there, and I remember him making me laugh so much that when I slid down the slide I weed myself because I had really bad incontinence problems as a child. Whenever I laughed and I needed to go to the toilet, I would just wee myself. And then I remember for some reason or other we must have gone into my parents' room and got into bed and hid underneath the covers, and my mum came in and thought, obviously didn't think that we were doing anything, but she thought that like she didn't know why we were there because he was a boy. She didn't know why we were underneath the bed, so she yelled at us and we had to get out. But I think that was my first kiss. My first celebrity crush. I used to be completely obsessed with celebrities when I was growing up, like even to high school. Like I would just be infatuated with certain people. But I think my first ever crush that I can remember was a boy called Kane, and he actually won a TV show that used to be on ages ago, if you remember, called Pop Stars. It was kind of like today's X Factor and Australia's Got Talent and The Voice. It was like a singing talent show. Anyways, I have the CD still. This was Kane. And I actually met him at a skate park about 20 minutes from where I live now. He was doing a signing, which clearly shows he wasn't really that famous because he just showed up at a skate park. And he signed this CD for me, and I remember just thinking he was absolutely gorgeous because I was probably, you know, 9 or 10 and he was probably at that time 20 or something like that. I've never heard from him again, but he was really attractive. My first job was, I did work experience for 2 weeks at a cafe for hospitality in school, but my first ever job was at the cult favourite for young people, which is McDonald's. I remember my first ever shift there. I was so excited when I finished. All I wanted to do was go back and work there again, which I don't really know why. And I think I got in trouble on my first shift because I was just standing there and I was meant to go get fries or something like that, and I didn't really know what to do because it was my first shift, and I got in trouble by one of the stupid managers and I just remember thinking, what the hell. But anyways, that was my first job, and I remember loving it for a while. I think I worked there for almost a year, and I used to always get put on counter, which is like where you serve people, and I really liked doing that. And then I started to get like on fries, and I had to clean the dining room all the time, and it was just horrible, and I ended up quitting because I had another job at a pharmacy that I ended up getting. So that was my first ever job, and I would never ever 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 work there again. My first car, I still have my very first car because I can't really afford to buy a new one, but it is on my to-do list for when I've like moved and settled in, then I'm going to start saving for a new car. But my first car was a Toyota Corolla. It's a 19 something model, I have no idea, but it's an okay car. Like, it's not really that great looking, but it's a pretty old car, but it wasn't really driven that much when I first got it by the person who owned it before me, so it didn't have a lot of like kilometers on it or a lot of whatever that is. But that was my first car, which I still have, and yeah, it gets me places, so I guess that'll have to do until I buy a new one. My first ever video, was made only last year because I've only been on YouTube for a year. I think I've gone past a year, but anyway. My first video was a 13 personal questions tag. I didn't do the cult what's in my bag tag, that was my second video, but my first one was the 13 personal questions tag, and I remember it was in my wardrobe. Obviously I remember it because it was only last year in July or something like that. Yeah, I think it was July or June. And I had it in my wardrobe, and I had blonde hair, and I wasn't wearing extensions because I don't think I had extensions at the time. And it was a 13 personal questions tag, and I was the most nervous I have ever been. I was just shaking, and my voice was stuttering, and I had to turn the camera off multiple times because I couldn't actually continue the video because I was so nervous. So that was my first ever video. And my first phone I think was a Samsung. I can't remember the actual name of it, but it was silver and it had pink down the front, and I remember somebody at school having that phone, and I was like absolutely obsessed with it and really wanted it, so I ended up getting it. So it had pink on the front, and it was a flip phone. It was one of those ones that had like the camera at the front and then you flipped it up, and I thought that I was the coolest thing. It even had like a little aerial on it, and I thought that I was the coolest thing ever because I could like walk around flipping my phone and like have it to my ear and be like, oh, and just acting really cool. And it was probably the worst phone I've ever owned because it did absolutely nothing, but that was my first phone. That's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I don't really post very much on there, but obviously, you know, if I get people like following me a bit more, then I will. But anyways, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye!